Hey, it's Jeremy from jeremy.net. And so I'm going over one of my drawings from the most recent month of figure drawings and took some drawings that didn't quite come out right or had some problems with it. And I wanted to, take some time and analyze them, try to figure out what was going on wrong. So right here with this particular figure, the reason why I have the drawing to the left with the woman where you can see her skeleton through the figure is because I had made that drawing in a previous drawing video where I was doing exactly what I'm doing now, analyzing what's going on with the figure. And it really struck me that one of the best ways, if I'm really not understanding what's happening with the anatomy, is to start with the skeleton. So I'll try to like lightly draw in sort of a bounding box of the major forms, the torso and the pelvis, the limbs. And as soon as I get the general form and direction that these objects are supposed to be going, to start drawing the skeleton within that. Because what happens is when I get a better understanding of what's going on with the bone structure, then all of the anatomy that I lay on top of it, the actual surface anatomy of the muscles, and the major volumes that are the forms that are making up the subforms of these major volumes, I can start understanding why this shape that I'm drawing doesn't make sense to me, because I can now see, oh wait, I'm trying to draw it one way, but I can see that the muscles are actually wrapping around in this way, or they're getting squished in another way, and I can actually look and see. So, I'm going through here, and the main thing that was really bothering me is the right hand arm on this figure, because it was bent and going away from us, and going away from the viewer, but going away from me, and trying to get it in the right perspective. And actually, for me, the big thing that this is also something that I've been taking that class with Ron Velasco, and he pointed out that in a lot of my drawings, I'm not clearly defining my planes, not in the sense of drawing it like a faceted drawing or drawing a cube, but specifically clarifying what is the top surface, so the surface that's facing the light, versus what's the surface that's facing to the shadow. So, all forms generally have a front, a top, and a side, or a front, bottom, and a side, depending on how they're turned towards us. And being able to convey that on the surface within the anatomy is very, very important, because that's what really sells the sense of depth and realism. And if you can do that while having anatomy on there, it makes that anatomy much more convincing. So with this one, I just really went through and ended up rendering the whole form, because in looking at it, I was just a lot of places all over, like the legs. I really didn't. I I described the outer surface of them, but I really didn't describe the volumes, the planes on those. So as I'm going back now here and drawing that anatomy, I kind of wanted to throw in a quick shot of. I took my little figure mannequin that I have that I've been using for comic book reference, and I wanted to throw this guy in here for a second so you could see exactly what it was that I was trying to describe, like how much of the top surface is lit, so that's the top, versus the point at which it starts turning to the shadow and the underside. And the thing that I was struggling with is like the shoulder is a spherical form. It's kind of like an onion, but in that form, it's much harder to describe. Like anything that's spherical doesn't have a front and a side per se. You have to impose those ideas onto it with where you put your shadows. But a sphere doesn't have a side. It's all the way around, it's circular. And while a shoulder is not a sphere, it kind of gives that sense. So I wanted to look at the figure and kind of see that it looks like the way that I had it positioned, it's mostly we're seeing top view, or rather side view. Let's just say that the shadow side is sort of the bottom view. And so there's only it's probably 2/3 light to 1/3 shadow. And I kind of wanted to look at that to help me go back in and rework the anatomy. So once I did that, I came in and just did one more quick little sketch where I sat down there. I shouldn't say one more sketch because I know what's coming. And I came in here and looked just by looking at the figure and trying to define my lights. And I also realized in the forearm that I wasn't defining the inside plane of the forearm. I wasn't defining the same shadows on the outside of the arm as I was in the forearm. And putting that shadow on the inside, well, and of course my art director Khaleesi has to jump up into the mix. she just wanted to, see what's going on. She's like, yeah, you really need to put your shadow sides clearly defined. So she's there to call me out on my bullshit. It's always good to have a art director there to look over your shoulder, make sure your stuff's staying on point. But yeah, once I came in there and really described those shadow sides, I still want to do a couple more diagrams, just looking at it in kind of a blocky sense. And I ended up going in here and drawing it over and over a bunch of times, which is what I tend to do when I'm analyzing an anatomical problem. And like both of those two drawings I did there were just horrible. So it's like I just kept going back and saying, all right, what is it that I'm trying to say here? What is the simplest form? So it's almost like I went through and tried to remove a lot of the anatomy and really just describe this. What's the next step besides just spheres and blocks, and just laying down what is the light side and dark side of that? And that's what I got in that final drawing. Now, I wanted to throw in a little bit of time where I just came and did one more. Normally when I do this, I'd like to do like 2, 3, 4 drawings if I have time and do quick sketches, but I actually spent a long time, like probably over an hour, doing the skeletal drawing of the one figure before this. So then I went into this one, and I'm realizing that my torsos do not feel as solid as I need them to be, especially when they're twisting. And this piece here, I ended up drawing it, and at first I drew it with the pelvis pointed towards us instead of away from us, and I realized that just was not working anatomically when looking at this figure. But I could have sat here and just drawn this piece. I always have problems with the raised arm. And as I was moving around the figure and getting the legs blocked in there, I went in and started drawing the raised arm. It's going up, over, and behind the head, the arm that's on the figure's right arm on our left side. And I realized that I was kind of avoiding it. I was going in and trying to do anatomy everywhere else in the hopes that it would just fit into place. And while I have studied this in anatomy books in the past, and I've had instructors show me in anatomy books, drawing that area where where all of the muscles overlap, where your latissimus overlaps the tricep, and then where the where the pecs tuck into that. So I went and I grabbed Peck's Anatomy for Artists, Stephen Peck's book, and I pulled out, and I was just flipping through, and I very quickly found the exact shot of what I needed. So I mean, when in doubt, pull out the anatomical reference, because that's what you really need to know. And this is one of those funny situations where I was sitting in here, and again, I'm trying to break it down, first trying to draw what I'm seeing, then trying to draw it and understand the volumes conceptually, and then trying to simplify it and do multiple drawings. So I ended up drawing this whole thing. I honestly think the one that I'm drawing right now is the best version of me doing this, because it's probably the one that looks closest to what's in the anatomy book. When I go over here and redraw it a couple more times, now I'm just trying to say, all right, what happens if I'm not looking at the anatomy book, but just trying to make these simple, basic structures that imitate what I see there. And what it made me realize is that these couple of sketches, I still didn't get what I was going for. I mean, they look like what it's supposed to be, but it doesn't authentically really feel like I've mastered that anatomy. So this is another thing that I'm probably going to start drawing more and more of, and you'll see it again in future figure drawing disaster videos, because when I realize I'm doing something wrong, I keep coming at it and trying to work it over until I figure it out. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, please like and share them. Don't forget to click the subscribe button. You can sign up for my weekly newsletter to get a free digital comic at newsletter.jeremy.net. That's newsletter.gerimi.net. Also, visit my main website, jeremy.net, where you can buy my comic books, art prints, and more. There's also links to my Instagram, Twitter, and other social media accounts. That's it for now. Go be creative.